Your documentary that you made, also called Jews Don't Count.
Yeah.
What did you set out to do with that? How is it different, or what were you trying to do to expand on what you had done in the book?
At some level, which is very banal, I just wanted to spread the word. You very kindly said you felt this is a book that should be read by everyone.
Yeah.
Certainly I feel that. And if you do a TV show, you know, that's one way of doing it. But then I did another thing, which was, a few people weren't sure about this, but I did it, was I had some big stars on it. I had David Schwimmer on it.
Right.
I had Sarah Silverman on it. I had Stephen Fry, Miriam Margolis, who's a massive star in Britain. And that's partly because I want to make it clear, A, these are issues that I wanted to hear people talk about, the word just me, and articulate and interesting people, but also people that maybe you'd have in your homes, as it were, without really thinking about their Jewishness. I mean, even though Sarah and David are probably people, I don't know if they do. I mean, there was an interesting conversation with David about Friends, right? And one of the things we talked about, and this is, I would say, is an expansion of the ideas in the book in an interesting way, is, like I said, obviously Friends has got quite a lot of stick, deserves stick. Stick, sorry, it's an English word for, you know, criticism, for being not diverse enough, for being too white. And of course that's true. And it's completely true, and it's an issue with that show. But I said to him, but if you were to say, maybe just even as a thought experiment, maybe not even trying to say this makes it okay, but to say, well, actually, there was a minority in that show. Two of the characters were part of a minority. There were two Jews in the cast
Jews,
of Friends.
right? Three.
No, I don't think so. You think Rachel's Jewish?
Well, because Rachel, Ross, and Monica.
I think Rachel isn't Jewish, is she?
Rachel Green is not Jewish?
See, by the time you get that, I think you'll start getting the racists saying, you see, there were too many Jews. I think she might have been initially, and then it seems to fade. I mean, it's interesting, American TV and all that stuff, because, of course, American comedy in the sort of like up to the 90s, I would say the voice of it was incredibly Jewish.
Oh, yeah.
At the same time, there was still an anti-Semitism towards that. So I haven't really finished the same thing about Friends, but I mean, in Seinfeld, which is an incredibly Jewish show, they still had to make George Greek.
Right. I talk about that a lot, yeah.
George Costanza, he's Greek. And that's because the network said, oh, Jerry's Jewish, so that's enough Jews. And it's interesting that that's enough Jews.
Right.
With Friends, I was talking to David about how much trouble he would get. I said, I can say it, I'm going to say it. How much trouble he would get for saying, well, there was a minority in that show. You know, I'm Jewish. And then he said, yeah, people would just say, not a proper minority.
Right. Having
Having said that, Jonah, someone said to me the other day, and I think this is true, they're a filmmaker who said, oh, I was in a meeting the other day and we were talking about the casting of a Jewish part, and people started saying, oh, we should probably get a Jewish actor for this part. And he said that would never have happened before your book. And of course, I'm not very bothered about authenticity casting. What I was bothered about was the leaving out of Jews from authenticity casting, and
Right.
what that says about people's attitude to Jews.
I think that's an important distinction and one of great value.